Hey guys, Gene here. You know, there was a day 5 years ago, not even 3 years ago, when one of your customers would walk into a print shop and they would have a picture of a business card, or they'd take a picture of a banner and they'd bring that to you and say, can you print this? And then when you said, well, there's going to be an artwork fee for me to recreate this artwork, they'd say, well, what do you mean? I have this picture right here. I'll just send you this picture and you can print it. And they just didn't grasp that. Today, I don't think that's as common. I think more commonly, folks will come to you with some artwork that was AI generated, and that AI generated artwork is like almost impossible to print other than maybe in a small sticker or something like that. And so to get the resolution, it may need to be vectorized, it may need to be simplified depending on what they're doing. Let's say you want to screen print t-shirts. And so this is a real challenge, and I see this popping up a lot that, I don't know what to do with this AI artwork. We can't print AI artwork. In fact, I see that line a lot, like we can't print AI artwork, and people are talking about what are you putting out there that helps explain to customers that we can't print AI artwork. Well, I kind of think that's baloney. I don't mean to offend anybody here, but we can figure out ways to print this stuff. And so we've gone from these customers who have a picture and like no idea what something should look like to having a design that they really like, and they're walking into your shop with this design. I think it's cool. I think it's actually going to lead to more print, more signage, because one of the biggest barriers to entry for print is getting design. These customers just need a one-off flyer, or they need a one-off thing for a grad party or something like that. They've created this design. Well, how do we print that? Well, I just want to show something to you. If we're talking about maybe something like a logo, let's say I've got a logo like this here, and so it's a little bit complicated, maybe a little bit too, just doesn't. This would be hard to print with these types of detail, or hard to convert to a vector. So I want to show you the steps I would take to do that. So the first thing I would do with something is I would take this and I'd come back into ChatGPT. Their version 2.0 photo editing, something like that, whatever it is getting to be pretty amazing. And I would prompt it, and let's see if this works. I would say, I need to be able to print this in many different formats. I need a simplified version. And you might do this like right with your customer, like right when they're sitting there, so that you can go back and forth and iterate quickly. I need a simplified version, 6 to 10 colors max. Let's try that. Let's see what that does. All right, so we're back. This honestly looks, at first I was like terrible, but I'm looking at it and it really does look terrible. Maybe we could use that. Let's not do that. I don't like that. You changed the logo too much. Needs the white background still. Keep the original artwork's colors, let's say, fairly consistent. And fairly is spelled that way. And let's try again. Okay, we're back. That actually looks quite a bit better. If I come up here and look at this graphic, you can see the detail that we've got up in the fish, and just, maybe some of this detail in the fishing rod will be challenging. But if I come down here, this looks a little bit simpler. I think we've done that. We still have good detail in the fishing rod. I like how all the eyelets on the rod are still good. That's still maybe a little bit too much detail. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna select this area here, and we're gonna try one more thing. Can you make this area fishing rod slightly less complex, smoother shapes, while still maintaining the accuracy of it overall? Let's see what that does. I'm talking to it. I'm trying to explain what I think. The beauty about this is we can iterate. I mean, these iterations are taking 45, 60 seconds a piece. We can iterate a lot. We can do several of these. I'm just on the $20 plan with ChatGPT, and I could be going back and forth, with my customer, maybe over email, or back and forth, in the shop there. and I'm looking at this. ChatGPT is generating something a little bit simpler, and I'm looking at it and saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to convert to vector okay. And I can send this off before I actually convert it to vector. But I'm going to show you a tool which you probably already know about that'll convert these things to vector really, really quick if you have simplified artwork. So if we've gone through this process to simplify, then converting it to vector is not that challenging. And then your final touch-ups, which I wouldn't do until you actually run the print, you do right in Adobe Illustrator or whatever your graphic design software is. So let's see how this looks. Okay, and we're back, and you can see that that fishing rod was cleaned up just a little bit. If I look at these different versions, there's the previous one, and then I highlighted that and I said simplify it, so it gave me this, which I actually like a little bit better. I think that's going to be a little easier to vectorize. That lighter colored shape there might be a problem, but let's see what happens. So let's copy this and let's go over to this vectorizer.ai. This is $10 a month, so I'm at $30 a month for both of these tools. Paste that in there, and it's immediately going to work to vectorize here. And let's just see how well it does, if it's good enough for me to bring into Illustrator to make final changes right before we actually send it to print or go to cut the vinyl out. So this will take just a second. And we're back immediately, and we can see the vector path that it's created. So if I zoom in on some of this stuff, if I look at the trees, those trees are probably just fine. Again, I can go in and clean those up if I wanted them to be a little sharper. Looking at the fishing image here, that is a fairly decent. It's still complicated, and I could ask ChatGPT to continue to simplify this depending on the need. But if I zoom in, you can see what it's done. Of course, in the little spotlight here is the original raster image that ChatGPT created, and then I can see the vector version that it has kind of cleaned up. So much simpler. Still room for improvement, absolutely, but not impossible to print, not impossible to take 20 minutes or an hour to clean this up. I might ask one of the tools to simplify these colors so that we get really good clean text here. Still some slop, absolutely, not going to say there isn't, but this is probably good enough in most cases, especially if it's going on a print, a flyer, things like that. Probably good enough in most cases so that you don't just straight up reject that customer who has walked in with AI artwork. That is the new, here's my business card, can you make it a banner kind of thing. They're bringing you AI artwork. These tools will do nothing but get better. Every day, every time you use it, going forward in the future, they're going to continue to improve. And so I would really strongly suggest you get in there and use them, utilize them to save yourself some time, so that when it does come to the real creative work, when it does come to the real value added work that you can do and you should be doing, this kind of stuff, you can get through it fairly quickly. I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for watching. I'm Gene with Firesprint.